Wellness Center, and this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. It is Monday, March 18th, and it is a beautiful day in Lubbock, Texas. I hope you guys out there had a fantastic weekend. I hope everything went your way. Got to give a shout out to my mom and dad today. This is, I believe, their 57th wedding anniversary. And so just want to say happy anniversary to my mom and dad. Appreciate the people that y'all are and the job you did raising me. So can't speak for my brother and sister. I'll let them speak for myself. Just kidding. Just kidding. You did a good job raising all of us. So just I hope you guys had a great day and a happy anniversary. Yeah, March 18th. So, yeah, man, it's been busy today at the Rock Health and Wellness Center. We've been after it since 6 o'clock this morning. Been pretty solid all day long, and just got a chance to get ready for this show. I've got this is our Take Health to Church night, and we're going to be going over Psalms 23. You guys have probably had lots of sermons over Psalms 23, the first 6 verses, and so we're gonna give it a shot here in a bit, and just kind of talk about some of the thoughts that I have from the sermon that we had. I wasn't able to get to Take Health to Church last week. My weekend kind of there were some things that took me away from getting the church done. So, but we got it done tonight. We got it done yesterday, and we're ready to go. And so that's something that you guys can watch if you'd like to hang around and listen to it. And we're going to kind of see if we can break that down. So, happy late St. Patrick's Day to everyone. In case no one told you that yesterday, I hope you didn't get pinched. I hope you wore your green. I wore my green today in honor of yesterday's St. Patrick's Day because that dude was a cool dude. I don't know if you've ever done any research on St. Patrick, but the research that I can tell, he was quite the guy, and really did love people and tried to make the world a better place. And after I didn't know anything about it. You know how we are these days with all these holidays. We just turn them into some sort of commercial thing and the way that things go. But there is some history behind all that, and there's some stuff there that was pretty good. So I did some study on him one time, and I became fond of him. I think some of the things that he's done, trying to help children, trying to help people, he was quite the guy. So happy St. Patrick's Day. Appreciate his work. Whatever we've turned it into is a different thing, but he was a good fellow as far as I can tell. Supplement of the day. Got 2 different ones for you today. And so have you ever had a cold sore or some sort of skin condition, some sort of sore on your skin? Maybe not so much a sunburn, but a sunburn to a certain extent. But where you had some sort of sore that you were trying to heal. And, a lot of times we always think about healing it from the outside in. But there's a super cool little saying that's in chiropractic that it's called above, down, inside out. And that's what we learned right at the beginning of chiropractic school. It's kind of the philosophy that we work off of and how healing takes place. Healing takes place from above down and from inside out. That's the way it works. And above down in the flesh starts with the brain. That's why after 20 years of working on this, and a matter of fact, I haven't said it on the show, I don't think, but this week is I'm pretty sure, I don't know the exact start date. I don't know the exact start date that I got into chiropractic. I know that it was a process to get me into chiropractic because I remember sitting in I told this story before. I remember sitting in a Dairy Queen in Roswell, New Mexico on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon with my family. And we got to go to town and have something to eat. And so we went to Dairy Queen, and I remember looking out the window at the Dairy Queen, and right across the parking lot was a chiropractic office. And I remember asking my dad, "Hey, Dad, what's a chiropractor?" And that was my first recollection. That's the first thing I could ever remember of being a chiropractor. And that was in, I don't know. That was somewhere around 83, 84, maybe earlier, but somewhere around that time frame, maybe 82, 83. is when that happened. And so, but things kind of rocked along. My brother-in-law was a chiropractor here in Lubbock. I got adjusted for the first time in Roswell when I separated my shoulder in a football game. And they sent me to a chiropractor who took care of athletes. He was quite a piece of work, but we're not going to get into that. But that was my first adjustment. And then my brother-in-law was a chiropractor. And so I just was around it for a long time. And then I spent 6 years coaching college football. And then after I finished my time coaching college football, my brother-in-law, my coach retired, Spike Dykes, who was the head coach here at Tech. You guys know this story probably. But he retired and I needed a job. And my brother-in-law said, why don't you come work for me? And I told that boy, I looked at him and said, man, I'm a football coach. I am not a chiropractic guy. Like, you're the craziest human being that I've ever met in my life. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, there is no way I'm working for you. There's no way that I'm doing that. And but he offered me a job I could not refuse. And thank the Lord that that's what happened, because man, what a great life I've had. I've had an opportunity to live, and this is the birthday. This is the birthday week somewhere right around in here, March of 2000. I always say it, March of 2000. And so it's 24 years that I've been in chiropractic. And I'm 53 years old, and I've been doing this. I've had my chiropractic license. I worked for him for a year. Then I did some prerequisites, because after a master's degree and 9 years of college, I still needed to go back and take 30 hours of science, because I tried to avoid that science all I could when I was doing my undergrad stuff. And because I thought I was going to be a football coach. And I was like, why would I want to take any of that science stuff? But when it came back around and it was time to go to chiropractic school, then I had to go get those hours. And so I took 30 hours in the summer and the fall. And then I took a biology class in the winter trimester. I don't know if you guys have ever done that before, but that's between the end of the fall semester, which is in December sometime, and the beginning of the spring semester in January. So I think it was actually 13 days. We did an entire biology class with a lab in 13 days. It was fantastic, boy. It was wall-to-wall biology from the time you get up in the morning till the time you go to bed at night for 13 straight days over the Christmas break, which was great, because as soon as I started chiropractic school, one of the first classes we had was biology. So I was primed up. I was ready to go for that class. But that was my story. And then now I'm in my 20th year of seeing patients. And man, what a blessing. Thank you to my brother-in-law to get me in this thing. Thank you for the example that he set back in the day to influence me to go in this direction. And thank the Lord for every single day that I've gotten to do this. And it's fantastic. It's been a journey. From my first adjustment when I was 17. Pretty sure I was 17 years old. Might have been 16, but it was either 16 or 17 years old. It was in that football season. I separated my shoulder. They sent me to a chiropractor. That started my chiropractic journey, and I've been doing it ever since. And in some form or fashion, getting adjusted. And I've had every treatment plan that you can think of. I've had the ones where you get adjusted once a year, once every 2 years. I've had the ones where you get adjusted twice a week. I've had multiple chiropractors take care of me over the years. I get adjusted every Tuesday from my awesome chiropractor, Dr. Derek Carson over at Grassroots Chiropractic, and it's my life. And I told my brother-in-law, he had a bucket, and it was in his office, and it said. I'll tell you what, y'all just give me, everybody just take one breath, because I got to show you this. Hang on 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. I know you're not supposed to have silent time on the radio, but I just wanted to, I think it's a big deal. It's a big deal to me, because he had this bucket in his office. And this is his original bucket right here. And it says, when your drugs no longer serve you, please deposit them here. And so he would have patients come in and dump their drugs into this bucket when they no longer serve them. There's some cigarettes in here. There's all kinds of stuff in here that, and this is 24 years old. That at least is the that this bucket and this is the original paper and everything that was on it. And I remember the very first conversation we had when I went to work in his office, because he offered me a job I just couldn't refuse. It was too much money, which never really manifested itself, but that's a whole different story. But um, he 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 said to he showed me this bucket, and I said, "Look here, I'll come to work for you, and I'll do a good job, and I'll work hard, and I'll try to get your goals met, and all the things that you want to do with your chiropractic office. But when I get a headache, I'm going to take a Tylenol, and when I get acid reflux, I'm going to take a Rolaids, and you can stuff this bucket up your nose. It's because this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I think your kids ought to be taken away from you. I think Child Protective Services ought to come in and take your children away from you because you don't vaccinate them. You don't give them a Tylenol when they get a headache. I don't understand it. It's the craziest thing ever. You know, there's sometimes in your life where you're just ignorant. It's not stupid. I mean, there's times in your life that you're stupid too, right? But there's times in your life that you literally have no idea what you're talking about, right? And I was 28 years old, March of 2000. I was 29 years old. I had just come off of coaching football at Tech. I was high on life. I had a master's degree. You couldn't tell me anything. I knew everything about everything. And like, come on. Like, seriously, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, right? But sometimes Coach Dykes would call us a blithering idiot is what is his term for it. He said, "Don't be a blithering idiot," right? Well, sometimes you're just a blithering idiot. Because when I told him that, I literally had no idea what I was talking about. When I told him when I get a headache, I'm going to take a Tylenol. When I get acid reflux, I'm going to take a Rolaids. In 24 years now, I've taken Tylenol one time in 24 years. And I've taken a Rolaids one or two times, and it was in the first 8 months because my grandparents passed away, and they passed away 30 days apart. My granddad passed away first. No, my grandmother passed away first, and then my granddad passed away. My grandpa passed away 30 days later, and it's a little town in East Texas, and if you've ever been to those small town funerals, man, there's all kinds of, they bring pies and cakes and all kinds of food. And man, I was away from home and I had acid reflux, something horrible from eating all that sugar and all that stuff back then. And I took a Rolaids. That's the last time. That was in August, I think July and August, or August and September, one or the other of 2000 was when I took a Rolaids. And I had to go through a learning process. I had to go through a process of understanding kind of I was ignorant. Like, I didn't understand acetaminophen. I didn't understand. No one ever explained it to me. That's part of the reason I do this show, is because I just want to explain it to you. I want someone one time in your lifetime to just tell you that acetaminophen is poison for your body. Like, it depletes your glutathione. It steals from your life. It ruins your liver and your kidneys. It does all those things. And nobody growing up told us that stuff. Nobody told me that you need your stomach acid in your stomach and you're not supposed to have it in your esophagus. Nobody told me that taking Rolaids and Tums and all the rest of that stuff can change the acetylcholine, the receptors from the vagus nerve that fire from the vagus nerve to my brain, that could change the way that my brain functions, that I might actually end up with ill health from taking those things like that. And so, man, I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful for the last 24 years of my life as it relates to health. I'm so thankful for the things that I've learned and the things that I get to share with you on a daily basis. And I've said that before, but like, this bucket's been with me, and it's going to be with me. The only thing that I'm disappointed in myself so far is that I don't have a 55-gallon bucket sitting in the middle of both of my adjustment rooms, where every single person comes in, that they can understand this stuff. Celebrex, that's right here on the deal. Celebrex is like right here in the middle of the bottle, right? Celebrex is hogwash, and it's it's made by people who don't care anything about your health. It's given to you because you've been lied to about your nutrition and about your movement. It's maybe there's like a handful of people that might help, and everybody else, it's just detrimental to their health and everything. So that's my soapbox for the day. That's my story. I'm super glad that I had the opportunity to learn about that. So I didn't know 24 years ago that there was an above, down, inside out process. I didn't know that your body healed itself from above down and from inside out. From inside out, when it comes to things like cold sores, things like blisters and those sort of things. And whenever you're trying to heal something in your skin, one of the things you might understand is that that's one of the very few times that we might want to consider calcium. And this is simply calcium lactate. And because one of the things that happens in cold sores, we've got vitamin D and we've got vitamin C, but calcium is one of those things that we might be a little bit deficient of calcium in our tissue. And we can't fight off cold sore is a virus, and we can't fight that off from inside out. And this little combination of calcium lactate and cataplex F. Cataplex F is kind of it's a fatty acid, but let me read you just a story about calcium lactate right quick. Supports muscles and nerve function, supports normal functions of cells and cell membranes, supports normal blood clotting processes, supports functioning of enzyme systems, supports and helps maintain healthy bone density and remodeling, provides support in the immune system response function. So I'm going to read that one again. Provides support in the immune system response function. So that's a big deal. It supplies support for the immune system. Adequate calcium is part of a healthful diet along with physical activity and may reduce the risk of osteoporosis later in life. But excellent source of calcium, good source of magnesium, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, all that sort of thing. So that's just straight calcium, right? And we've talked about this in the past, that you should be getting enough calcium from your nutrition. You should be. And if you're taking vitamin D, that's the article, the video from Dr. John Campbell's page that I was talking about last week, where he's interviewing that other medical doctor that did a lot of research in vitamin D. And that medical doctor said it right on the video. Look, if you're taking adequate amounts of vitamin D, you shouldn't be taking any calcium at all. You don't need it. You're getting enough of it from your food. But if you feel like you need a little bit of calcium, especially if you're fighting off something from a cold sore standpoint, maybe you're a little bit deficient. That's where we'd use the calcium, and we'd use the cataplex F. And basically, it's just fatty acids that help pull. There's not much to say about the cataplex F. May support healthy structural composition of skin and hair. Contains iodine for thyroid support. Excellent source of B6 and iodine. But what we do with that, with the cataplex F, is it helps pull the calcium into the tissue. And that's what we use to try to make sure you get enough calcium in there so that your immune system can fight the way it's supposed to. So we use these two in a combination. Cataplex F and calcium lactate is the combination that we use whenever we're fighting off something from a cold sore standpoint, some sort of virus in the skin, some sort of skin condition that we're trying to improve the nutrition inside the body so that the body can fight from inside out. I never was taught that. Not one time growing up was I ever taught that skin conditions are an inside out problem. Like, well, almost all of them, eczema is what I'm trying to think of, or psoriasis. Eczema and psoriasis are an inside out problem, right? It's when you're having problems in your skin, the first place that you should look is your gut. You should be looking at your gut, because if your gut's not functioning properly, if you're not absorbing your nutrients the way that you're supposed to, if you're not getting all of the food that you're supposed to, that's why the proton pump inhibitors and all that stuff in the stomach are working against us, because we need that acid to break down that food properly and present it to the small intestine so that we absorb it properly. And so if we're having skin problems, we're either trying to get toxins out of our body through our skin, or we've got some sort of leaky gut problem that's got our immune system all hyperactivated, and all of our IgGs and IgAs and IgEs and all that stuff that creates your immune responses, all those immunoglobulins that are part of your immune response, all that stuff gets all stirred up. And then we start having skin problems. So what do we do? Almost always, I know growing up, that's what we did. We always think of a skin problem as what can I put on it from the outside. You got any salve or any lotion or any kind of aloe vera or what is something that I can put on my skin from the outside to help me with my skin problem? But I never had anybody explain to me, hey, look, you should start from the inside out if you're dealing with a skin problem. It's the gut, it's the immune system, it's an inside out problem, and you might not have enough nutrients to support the way that your body is supposed to be functioning, and so you might be a little bit low on that right there. So that's what we use. That's a combination, Cataplex F and calcium lactate. Anytime we're trying to deal with something in the cold sore range or any sort of skin condition. I want to remind you, we just have 2 weeks left. In case you guys are interested, if you want a pair of insoles, if you want some foot levelers, which are custom orthotics, we got a scanner here in the office. You can come into the office, you can get them scanned. We'll build you a custom orthotic. They're running a special. Foot levelers running a special for this month, and so it's $199 for one pair and $299 for two pair. So if you're interested in that and you want some orthotics, then let us know. We can get you scanned, get you a custom built orthotics that you can wear in your shoes if you're interested in it. So that's happening through the end of March right here. So got these 2 weeks left before that promotion is over. I don't control those promotions. That's all done by the company. I just think that it's an added bonus of something that we want to add. We want to give to you, to give you the opportunity to have, if you'd like to have a solid foundation with your feet. And it's funny because we've had good conversations, MJ and Joe and I, MJ and Rosal and Joe Fraley and Riodoso, and we had some good heated battles over that little deal, whether or not they were any good, whether they weren't any good. And that's what I love about those guys, because they'll call you, if they don't like it, they'll call you on it. But I'm fine with them calling me on it, because I've got my own belief system on that particular thing, and I love them. I love them in my shoes every day. They're super comfortable, and they keep my feet rotated properly, and I think they're very helpful. So if you guys want some, we can put them in dress shoes as well. We can put them in super hard work boots. Whatever you need, we can make some for you. The company is fabulous. They do a great job. I got a pair sitting there on my desk that one of my guys bought. He didn't like them. He didn't like the style. They started breaking down on him a little bit. And I called my rep. My rep just fixed it. He just fixed it, sent me a new pair. And we got them in the mail today. I talked to him last week. They built him a new pair, got him a new one, and got him the kind that he wanted. And so because the guy's already bought two other pair. After he bought the first one, he bought two other pair to go in other shoes. And now this is his third pair, and he loves them. And he's a big guy. He's a big ex-offensive lineman, works in the oil field, on his feet a lot. And he said they've made tremendous difference in the way that he functions. So we got that going on. The next thing I wanted to talk about, I've got just a little bit of time. We're going to get to Taking Health to Church here in a bit, but I've referenced multiple times. I've referenced that study done with the mice, and how they put the mice in a cage and they gave them the sugar water and the regular water, and how the mice all migrated to the sugar water. And then I told the story a little bit wrong. I said they took them out and removed their taste receptors. No, they actually had knockout mice, or mice that have genetically been altered, that they don't have any sweet receptors in their mouth. And then they put those mice in the cage, and those mice 100%, I mean, when they put them in there and they had no sweet receptor, they went to equal watering supplies, right? But then after 48 hours of staying in the cage, all the mice went back to the sugar water. Even though they could not taste the sweet, they went back to the sugar water, right? You guys have heard me say that. And I've talked about that article. It's tremendous. It's tremendous if you understand the, the, the ramifications of that study. If you just would stop wherever you are right now, not if you're driving, be careful out there if you're driving, but if you would just listen to that study, just for a second, if you just listen to that study, it is so powerful and life-changing. When you put these mice in a cage that can taste sweet and you give them the option, they will go to the sweet water. If you put those mice in a cage that cannot taste sweet and you give them the option, they will drink equally between the two water supplies, unless you leave them in the cage for 48 hours. And then if you leave them in the cage for 48 hours, they will move to the sweet water again, right? And that implications are huge. Why do they do that? Why does a mouse that cannot taste sweet go drink sweet water? When we get back from the break, I'm gonna go over it one more time because I think it's just massive. So you guys hang on. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, and we'll be right back right after these messages. Think about it. Think about how massive that is right there. I know people don't get it. But if you're listening, if you come back and listen later, think about that for just a second. Why would a mouse that cannot taste sweet drink water that's sweet? Right? They would drink it because the reason they drank it was because they wanted the neurochemistry that goes with the sweet. That's why they drank it. Which tells me that the reason that we eat sweet things, we're bred to love sweet things. It's in our nature to love sweet things. Why? Because glucose is important for our brain. Glucose, oxygen, excitability, right? Fuel and delivery. Glucose, oxygen, and excitability are important for our brain. So we're born with an innate love for sweetness. We love that sweetness because we love the glucose. But never in the history of mankind did we have access to this amount of sweetness. And I'm not talking about me on this show. I'm not saying every night from 6 to 7 you've got all this access to sweetness. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we've never in the history of the world had this much sugar to eat. And if you go back 1,000 years, just think about that. 1,000 years ago. So it's 2024. So in 1024, right out here in Lubbock, if we were living in Lubbock 1,000 years ago and we woke up, the first thing we did when we woke up in the morning, what would we eat? Think about that. What would be the first thing that we would eat? Hang on, I got to get us back on the radio. Okay, everybody, this is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. You are listening to us on this Monday, March the 18th, and we're talking about that study that I love so much. It's so profound. And so the question is, why would a mouse that can't taste sweet eat something sweet? Why would they drink from sugar water that they can't taste, right? What they're wanting is the neurochemistry. They're wanting what's going on behind the scenes. They're wanting what's going on in the brain. And I was talking about it during the break to the guys on social media. What would we have eaten? What would we have eaten if we would have woken up in Lubbock, Texas, 1,000 years ago? Wherever you're listening to the show, what would we have? What would we get? Would we go to the convenience store and get a Snickers bar? No, there's no such thing as a convenience store, right? Would we somehow make a cake? Out of what? Like, no. Like, dude, seriously. the reason that we love sugar so much is because our brain needs glucose. And for years and years and years, there wasn't any, there wasn't much of it. And so anytime we had a chance to get it, we loved it. If we happened to find a fruit or a berry or something like that that gave us some of that, we loved it. It made us want more glucose, right? So we have taste receptors, and the what I was trying to get to was the description and the person, in case you guys want to go back and watch it. It's an interview, and you could just go to YouTube. It's an interview with Andrew Huberman and Dr. Charles Zucker. And I didn't know who Dr. Charles Zucker was. I just heard one little clip of him when I heard that story, and then I just kind of lost that whole video. And but he is a PhD, professor of biochemistry and molecular biophysics and neuroscience at Columbia University, and an investigator with the Howard Hughes Medical Institute. He is the world's leading expert in the biology of taste, thirst, and craving. His laboratory explores the mechanisms of taste perception, focusing on how our conscious and unconscious processing of specific foods and nutrients guide our actions and behaviors. We discuss the neural circuits of taste, the gut-brain axis, the basis of food cravings, and the key difference between wanting, which is craving, and liking, which is perceiving sugar. And he gets into the rest of it. So that's from Andrew Huberman. You can go watch it. It's a fantastic conversation because it explains a lot of different things. Number one thing that I may just do a whole show on it tomorrow night. I think that's what I'll do, and I'll just take what we're doing tonight and just move it forward to tomorrow night and go over that tomorrow night. But I just think that it is really. You guys may get a chance to go watch it. You can go to YouTube and search Dr. Charles Zucker, Zuker, and you can search him and listen to him speak in multiple realms. You can also listen to him speak in Spanish. I found one of those videos that he was speaking somewhere. He's from South America somewhere. I want to say he's from Peru is what he said, but he's been in the United States since he's a child. But it's fascinating. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold off with all of the information about that. But I did find it, and I wanted to tell you about it. And tomorrow night we'll talk about more in depth with Dr. Charles Zucker and about and what he's talking about with our tongue and our taste and our brain and all that sort of thing. So let me just pass that off to you. One more thing, then we'll get into, because the Psalm 23, you guys have heard it lots of times. So, but I wanted to get into one more thing because I saw this and it bothered me to death. And and I even had to go look it up. It's a collaboration with, and it's at Believe My Pain. BelieveMyPain.com. And it's a collaboration between Morehouse School of Medicine, Advil, and BLK Health. So it's the Advil Pain Equity Program introduces Believe My Pain. And unseen, unheard, dismissed, the unfortunate reality for many Black people in pain. In a recent study, Advil surveyed 2,000 Americans about their experience when seeking pain care and treatment. 74% of Black people said I'm reading this off of the website, 74% of Black people said there is a bias in how pain is diagnosed and treated. 53% of Black people suffering from pain said they didn't go back for treatment after their negative experience. To achieve equitable pain care and treatment, we must listen and believe Black people when they say they are in pain. Now, look here. And then it's all the stories. Okay, I understand that that there may be some sort of bias, and that this may be a legitimate thing that we're not, that a certain group of people may not feel like they're heard. Okay, that's fine. I'm not talking about it. I didn't talk about this for that reason. I talked about it because they're not going to tell them why they're in pain. They're not really going to help the black community. They're not really going to talk to them. This is put on by Advil. What do we want to do? We want the doctors to listen to them and feel their pain and pay attention to them when they say, when this community says we're in pain, we want you to pay attention to us and give us the Advil and the medication that we need to get us out of pain. And I'm telling you that that's not the way you care about any community. Black people, Mexican people, Chinese people, white people, it doesn't make any difference, whatever that means anyway. Like, it doesn't make any difference at all. And I'm telling you, if you're an African American or a black person or whatever you want to be called, if you're someone that is buying into that realm, you should look at your vitamin D levels, because dark skinned people have a hard time with vitamin D, right? You should check your vitamin D levels, and you should make sure that your vitamin D is working. You should watch for your omega-6 fatty acids, because it is no different between a white person and a black person when it comes to your omega-6s. Some of the things that are in your so-called culture about what you eat, those are the things that the doctors ought to be talking to you about. They're going to make no difference if you're black or white, if you're Mexican, if you're Chinese, if you're from Mars. It doesn't make any difference. Your 6:3 ratio is one of the most important things to balance your 6:3 ratio and to get your omega-6s and down and your omega-3s up. They ought to be talking to you about, instead of Advil, they ought to be talking to you about fish oil. They ought to be talking to you about turmeric. They ought to be talking to you about vitamin D levels. Like, if I had to pick two things, if you only gave me two things, and you want to say, Jason, look, what are you going to do to help these people? If you're going to get two things, what I would do is I would increase your omega-6, your omega-3s. I would get you above a baseline of 3,000 milligrams a day of omega-3s. And when you go look at a bottle, when you look at a supplement bottle, there's two things a person ought to look at, in my opinion. You ought to look at EPA and DHA. Those are the two things. So you want your EPA to be in a 2-to-1 ratio. That means twice as much as your DHA. And you want your DHA to get to 1,000. So when we look at a bottle, that this is not a fish oil bottle, but if I look at the fish oil bottles that we have in the office, I'm going to look at the DHA, and it's going to say 300, or in this particular case, it's going to say 335. And then I'm going to look at the EPA, and it's going to say 670. That's a 2-to-1 ratio. And then I know 335, I got to take at least 3 of these pills to get me to 1,000 DHA. And I will have 2,000 EPA, which is a 3,000 milligrams a daily allowance of fish oil. And if you have any pain, you should increase that number. You should take that number higher. Go to 5,000, go to 6,000, go to 9,000 milligrams of fish oil every day. Get your 3s up. And what are things that are high in 6s? Peanut butter, vegetable oil, seed oils. You're hearing a lot about them now. Those are high omega-6 oils and high omega-6 fatty acids, and those are increasing. Animals that are fed corn products, corn syrup, corn anything is high in omega-6s. And so that omega-6-3 ratio is super important. I thought it was another thing. It's like, oh yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to take a group of people that don't understand why they have pain, and then we're going to tell them that it's because of the lack of Advil. I'd be willing to bet you Advil's not going to tell them to balance your 6:3 ratio and get their vitamin D levels where they need to be. Get your vitamin D levels up. We talked about the Maasai warriors last week that have a vitamin D level of 130 to 150. And that because they're in the sun, the sun is what regulates their levels of vitamin D, right? Right. So just for all of the black people, as to use their term, to all the black folks out there that, look, you don't have to have pain like that. You got to get your 6s down. You got to get your 3s up, and that will help you control the way that your pain is going on, right? Get your exercise, move your feet, do all those things. Those are super important things. And then if you can't, if after that's all, and you're really in bad shape, maybe you need some Advil, whatever. But not that's not health. That's not health. It's not going to help your community. It's not going to help your family. It's not going to make America any better. That's not a Republican statement. That's a health statement. It's not going to make the planet any better. That we're going to get together and see if we can get everybody as much pain medicine as we need and get the doctors to listen to them so that they can have as much pain medicine as we need. We are the sickest country in the history of mankind due to the pharmaceutical industry in the lobby that we have in our country. So enough of that. I'm not going to get all preachy on that either, but it is something that is something that's important. Okay, let's get to church, because there is a Savior after all, and there is a story about that Savior. So we're going to use this last part of the show. We got 13 minutes left. That'll be enough time to get through, I think, what we're going to try to get through right here. And we've been going through greener pastures, right? And the one I missed was pursuits. And so we might have a chance to go back at some point, because we talked about the next thing, right? The next place, the next person, the next possession, the next pursuit. That's the one we're on now. That was the one last week. The next pursuit. And so they're talking about that. This whole thing. Why the next thing is often not a better thing. That was a sermon. Why the next thing is often not a better thing. And the one that what the sermon was about yesterday is that the next is now. Your greener pasture is the one you are currently grazing in. The one you are in right now is the one that you're supposed to be in, if you can understand and follow and understand why. And so they went to Psalm 23, verses 1 through 6. And you guys all know this. You guys that are Bible people, you know this. And I want to talk about it. I want to read it, and then I want to talk about it from some of the things that I got shown about it. And then I want to talk about it from the standpoint of health and wellness. That's the whole point of it, right? That what does it mean from a health and wellness standpoint when we're talking about the Bible, and what is the Bible trying to teach us about health and wellness, right? That's the whole point. So Psalm 23, verse 1, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in greener pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all of the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So I know you guys have heard lots of sermons on that, and I'm sure not going to give a sermon on that whole thing. But there's some things in there that someone showed me along the way that I didn't quite understand. And if you're young, or if you haven't had any sermons on this, there's just a couple things that I want to point out. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in greener pastures. Well, one of the things that God explained to me is the shepherd is the person that watches over the sheep. And when it comes to the Lord being our shepherd, we are the sheep. And so sheep are afraid of water. And if we understood that, you don't really see sheep that will lay down and he leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He makes me lie down in green pastures, right? So as a sheep, it's not It's not within our nature to want to do those things, right? We don't want to lay down, and we don't want to be next to the waters. We don't like water. We won't want to do that. But our shepherd's the one that does that for us. And it's such a great analogy when it comes to our health, because our health is exactly the same way. We're not naturally going to move ourselves in the direction of health when we have so many opportunities to move ourselves away from health. It's not something that we naturally think of until we let the Lord guide us in our steps. And that's what basically I always talk about when I talk about our why, right? Because that's like your reason for existing, your true reason for what you're doing on a daily basis. What is your why? That's the thing, right? What is your why? Well, your why is going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be, for all of us Christians, it's going to be tied into what the Lord wants you to be doing in your day. He's going to guide you through all of this nonsense. And man, it's taken me a long time to figure that out. Not a long time as compared to 1,000 years, but it took me a long time to get to the point where I could lay down in green pastures next to water and be just fine, right? I don't that whole thing of sugar, that whole thing of the desiring that thing to say that I have to. I don't. It's just so peaceful. It's so peaceful not to get lured into that thing that I got lured into my whole entire life. Like, it's so peaceful just to be able to live on a daily basis, knowing that that one threat doesn't have a grip over me. And when you lose that peace and you can't control that thing, it wears on you. And I really don't know. It's like people say that man, they just love it. They just love it. They just love sugar. Man, I'm just going to eat sugar. I just love sugar. And then as soon as they get cancer, they'll say, I wonder what I could do to not have cancer. And as soon as they get heart disease, they're like, I wonder what I could do to not have heart disease. And as soon as they get just a little inkling that they might have Alzheimer's, all of a sudden they're like, oh crap, what am I going to do now that I almost have Alzheimer's? I wonder what I should do. I wonder where I should go to learn how to be healthy. I wonder what my medical doctor has to say about that. I wonder if he's got anything for me. Well, no, probably not. He's never said anything about me being healthy. Maybe he's got some pill I can take that's going to solve my problem. I sure hope so. I sure hope there's a pill out there that's going to solve my problem because I've lost it. And it's a hard day. That's a hard day on all of us when that comes to fruition, because we have made the choices that we have made. And if we will let the Lord guide us in our ways, I just don't believe the Lord's going to guide you into sugar. I don't think the Lord guides you into death and destruction like that. And he may guide you into a valley. If you follow him, he guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. But righteousness might be a peak, and righteousness might be a valley. We might be going through it. No matter what we're going through, if we're following him, then we're going to be fine on the other side of it, right? Well, we're going to learn. We're going to learn as we go through, and sometimes those valleys, like if you quit eating sugar, you still got to eat something. So what are you going to eat? And if you eat a bunch of stuff, maybe your blood pressure goes like mine did last year. It's like, why did my blood pressure go up? I don't know why. I'm still working on it. I've been working on it for a year now. What's going on? I talked about maybe there's a kidney thing or something. Maybe I had a kidney stone or something. Well, maybe I was eating too much of the oxalate family, right? Maybe I had too much in the raspberries and the strawberries, and I wasn't getting enough diversity. So what am I going to do in this valley, right? It's like, crap, I gave up sugar. I'm thinking I'm doing right, and then I find out, well, maybe I wasn't doing right. Well, I think I'll just go back to sugar. No, that's not the thing I'm going to do. I know the sugar came from the devil. I know that whole thing and process, that whole thing is full of it leads me to death and destruction. I know the sin of that whole thing at this point in my life. I'm not turning back that way again. So maybe the path I'm leading into is a path of knowledge. Maybe it's a path to righteousness takes a turn into the valley and says, all right, here's what you're going to learn when you walk through this one. And when we do that with nutrition, we sometimes get frustrated. When we do that with exercise, which exercise am I supposed to be doing? Which program should I be on? Right? I just think that there's some knowledge right there of understanding that, look, get my eyes on the thing that I'm supposed to be doing, focus myself on the my purpose and my why, and start walking in that direction and get going. And one of the things that the pastor said was pretty cool. Um, he was like he was like, if every decision was crystal clear, you would be a child. He guides you, so walk with him and make a decision. That was pretty powerful yesterday. Just because he guides me doesn't mean he makes all the decisions for me, and he doesn't show me crystal clear every single thing along the way. Maybe I have to make a decision. Maybe I have to make a decision, and when I make a decision, sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong, but I'm still righteous. I'm with him. I'm not going to be left. I'm not going to be left at the end, because surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life. Jesus will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I will dwell in the house of the Lord even if I make a bad mistake or make a wrong decision when I'm trying to work on my health. I didn't get separated from him just because I ate too many almonds or raspberries or whatever it might be, right? That's just part of the journey. That's part of the journey of maybe I hurt myself working out. Maybe I was stepping up on a box and I did something to my knee, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to throw out my entire workout program. I'm going to just eliminate the whole thing because I hurt my knee. No, that's not the way I want to go, right? I want to learn from that journey, even though some days are painful, and I want to keep myself moving forward. And I want to keep myself moving forward, right? From a nutritional standpoint, from an exercise standpoint, from a health and wellness standpoint, from a sleep standpoint, from a spiritual prayer standpoint, from a meditation standpoint, from a neurological standpoint, all of those things that come into play with health and wellness is we're being led if we'll just listen, if we'll just define our why, if we just will really pay attention and make a decision and go forward and learn from that and keep moving forward, and we'll work in the right direction. And when we say, man, I'm weak, I'm tired, whatever, the strength that supports you. That's where you go back to John 3:16 and all that sort of thing, right? You've got that strength there. You just got to stay the course. You got to stay the course. You got to keep working through it. You got to keep trying to find what is the right thing to do from a nutrition standpoint. You got to watch out for those sneaky little devils that are going to try to take your life away from you, that are going to try to trick you into with all of their schemes, right? You got to protect our children, and we can live better and we can be better as far as that goes. So, I know that's a really quick version of Psalms 23, but it's pretty cool. The greener pasture is the one you're in now. If you have your eyes on the Lord, He's leading you where you're supposed to be. So that's what I got for you on that. That was quick. I know that was quick. We covered a lot of stuff there, but I hope you guys enjoyed some of that. Tomorrow night, we're going to get a little deeper into Dr. Charles Zucker, PhD, and the conversation that he had with Dr. Huberman. And we're going to talk about your taste buds on your tongue. How long do they last? How do they function? What goes on in your brain? You guys have a great night. I appreciate you. I'll see you tomorrow night at 6 with Life with Jason Clemmons, DC.